Good morning, YouTube. Captain Mac here, and welcome back to the life of a virtual airline pilot. You may recall our last flight was from Vancouver all the way up to Anchorage, Alaska, and that was a preparation flight for what we're going to be doing today. Now, we flew up here in the 787, and we're going to have continuing service in our Air Canada 787 from Anchorage all the way down to Los Angeles, or KLAX. And the purpose of today's flight is a special celebration. This is by request from my good friend and longtime subscriber, Mark WEBBO Webster. Yes, indeed, Mark is going to be turning 40 this year. Now, sad to say that I don't recall the actual date of his birthday. My sincere apologies for that, Mark, but I do want to wish you a very happy birthday today, and I'm really looking forward to this flight. It's going to be a very long one. This was the flight that Mark requested, flying from Anchorage all the way down to LA. And as you can see, it's a beautiful early morning up here in Anchorage, and I'm looking forward to what's going to ultimately be a really gorgeous flight. So what do you say we climb up in the office here and get to work? Now, as has become our custom, we are going to start by taking a look at our flight plan for the day. So we'll bring our Sim Toolkit Pro over here. And as already mentioned, it is Anchorage, or PANC, all the way down here to KLAX. Now, I did pull the ATIS real quick just to get a feel for what we're going to be looking at. If we look on here, it says that our wind is 150 at 5 knots, which isn't, well, it's kind of far off if you ask me. The ATIS in the sim is 135 degrees at 8 knots. Nonetheless, despite runway 15 being the primary runway in use, because of the scenery that I have here, and I mentioned this from the flight in, because of the scenery that I have here, runway 33 and 15 has some really crazy, huge lumps in it that just make takeoff and landing, in real world you wouldn't do it. It'd be highly dangerous, but it just pretty much makes it impossible. So we're not going to be doing that. So we'll take a look at our departure runway when the time comes. But real quick, let's take a look at the operational flight plan here. Again, Anchorage down to Alaska in our 787. This is a continuing service from our last flight, but it's a new flight number 777, just because I like sevens. Either way, now the cost index is listed here on 66. I looked in SimBrief. I didn't forget this time. The highest you can set the cost index in SimBrief is 400. We're going to be flying at, I think, 950 is going to be our cost index. So I did add some additional fuel. I started out with 5,000 pounds extra in SimBrief, but I added an additional 10,000 pounds in the actual aircraft, and you'll see that when we get there. I just want to see how that works out, just to see where we end up with our fuel. So we're looking at a total air distance 2,075 nautical miles. Nice long flight. Block fuel is, again, I added another 10,000, so it's going to be 80,976. And if we scroll down here, I don't think we're really that close to our departure time. For whatever reason, I kind of make a mess of that every time. I just went with the current time, which right now is 12:39 Zulu. I forgot to adjust the time when I loaded in, so my apologies. But it's a nice pretty morning anyway, and make a nice sunrise departure. 390 packs on board, 23.5 thousand pounds of cargo for a total payload of 91,700 pounds. Zero fuel weight is 392,900 pounds, pushing pretty close to our max. Fuel, again, another 10,000 pounds in there, and then our takeoff weight at 462,800 pounds. And our landing weight's probably, I'm gonna be curious to see how close our landing weight gets. And we can get a quicker look at that with our load sheet here. There's the payload, zero fuel weight, number of packs, ramp weight, all of that good stuff is in here. And then again, just a reminder, an additional 10,000 pounds of fuel in the aircraft. We are supposed to step climb to 390 at FOT. I can't just, right now it's not letting me just change it in the FMC. So we'll take a look at that and see if we can get that working when we do our FMC setup. And I think that's it. That takes care of our flight briefing. Alright, on to the flight deck here then. I think I've mentioned this to you guys before. It may not have popped up in a video yet because, again, I tend to record I try to record at least 2 or 3 videos ahead of what I'm actually posting so that I've got content for you guys on a regular basis. That's what I did in the past, and that's what I plan to continue doing here in today and going forward. So with that in mind, let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this, but I have the ability to pull up checklists over here on my Sim Toolkit Pro. I do hope to get to a fresh tutorial on this in the not too distant future, but the way to do this is no different than it was from my previous tutorial, so it's not hard to add stuff down here. Just keep that in mind. Do you guys like me pulling the checklist over here? Do you care if I pull the checklist over here, or would you rather I just read it? Do you want me to take each section here and put it as a pop-up on the screen like I was doing in past videos? All of that stuff, those are all options that we can explore. Whatever the majority of you prefer, that's what I'd like to go with. But for the time being, I may occasionally pull that checklist over, but I won't necessarily do it every single time. Okay, so with all of that being said, let's take a look at our pre-flight checklist. Now you can see I've already done quite a bit of setup on the aircraft. The idea of that is to kind of move things forward a little bit quicker here. So starting with our pre-flight checklist here, the parking brakes need to be set, which they are. The battery switch is obviously on, or we wouldn't have power on the aircraft. We don't have the APU running right now. APU generator and master knob are off. External power is currently on. We have all 3 of them on. If you don't know what I mean by that, if you jump up here, there are 3 external power switches, aft, and then forward, left, and right. We have all 3 going right now. Landing gear, it actually looks like on this, so right under, so it's landing gear, then flaps lever. So flaps lever, it says up. Landing gear says down. If you glance at it briefly, it almost looks like it says landing gear up. But no, the landing gear is down. The flaps lever is up. The speed brake lever is retracted. That's all of this good stuff down here. You guys are very familiar with it at this point. Engine fuel control switches are in the cutoff position. Again, that's jumping back up here. Here's all our engine fuel pumps here. Or sorry, these are the fuel pumps. These are off. The engine fuel control switches are these 2 guys down here, and they are in the cutoff position. Anti-ice controls should all be on auto. It's a lot of bouncing back and forth, isn't it? So anti-ice, click these over to auto real quick. Auto is very nice. I enjoy it. Somebody left a comment. Let me see if I can pull it up here real quick while I'm thinking about it. The comment was for the lights. So nav lights, this was a TF51D. He's been a subscriber for a long time too. I thank you, sir, for your feedback and just your continued support. And that really goes for all of you. I really appreciate just the ongoing support that I've gotten from everybody in the community. You guys are all fantastic. I love you guys. He said that the nav lights are on when external or APU power is applied. So that would be these here. And then beacon lights only when we have engine start. Now keep in mind also, see it's clicking on and off because it's one of these switches on here. There we go. So nav lights on. I really need to disconnect these switches from the control settings so that I can just click them. It'd be a lot easier. And they auto registered or whatever when I got my alpha yoke. So either way, moving on. Anti-ice controls are auto. Window heating is as required. Window heat is, I'm sure, right in front of my face, and I'm not seeing it at the moment. It's up here actually. I know where it's at. Window heat, they're all on. You can't do anything with those anyway. Altitude setting, we do need to set the altimeter here shortly. IFR clearance request is complete. Fuel quantity is checked, and you can do that down here, of course. So if you look down here, you can see, I'll zoom it in for you. Here's our fuel quantity, and it's at 81,000 pounds. Remember I said I added an additional 10,000 pounds of fuel. And then on here it says beacon lighting on. I'm going to go with what T51D said on this one. We're going to go with the nav lights for now. We'll do the beacon lights here a little bit later. And that takes care of our pre-flight checklist. Moving on then, we're going to move into our FMC setup. And you'll see that I've actually already done most of this. This is for the sake of saving time. We did our position initialization. Keep in mind, of course, that you copy your IRS position to here, and then you got to jump all the way up here and make sure that both of your IRS knobs are turned to the on position, and then the alignment takes place automatically, which has already been completed. You can put in your gate if you want. Reference airport, I threw those in there just for the fun of it. Moving on over here, we did a route request, which is linked to SimBrief, and so that put our route in there, which was nice because there's a lot of different waypoints in there, right? So rather than having to put all of these in, route request took care of it for us. Departure and arrival page, real quick, we jumped over here. We're 7 left. We're not using any SID for this departure here, so not a problem there. And then performance initialization. So reserves, we're looking to have 5,000 pounds. Zero fuel weight is in there. Cruise altitude is flight level 370, and you can see up at the cost index at 950. That sets our cruise center of gravity at 19.8%. Thrust limit, I want to go with the full takeoff. We are heavy, so we're going to stick with a full takeoff. I am going to try to get Toga to work. It didn't work last time. Control-Shift-G was the suggestion from T51 on the comment section, so we're going to see how that works out. And then I didn't do the takeoff page yet. We are going to go flaps 10 for our takeoff, and the thrust is going to stay as is. It doesn't say anything about the trim on here. Let's see if that changes when I put in the V speeds here. So just click on them, it gives you your V speed. So V1 is 141, rotate at 155, and V2 is 164. I like to set 10 knots higher than this on the MCP, and so that's going to put us at 174 on the MCP, and that pretty much takes care of setting up our FMC. Again, I did a lot of this off screen, and I did that for the sake of saving time. So if it's really important to you guys to see all of that, let me know and I can include it in future videos. But you might see more and more that I get a lot of that taken care of and then just briefly go over it with you before we press on. But that takes care of setting up the FMC, and we'll be back just in a second here to set up the MCP and finish our before start procedures. Alright, so we want to get our MCP set up first. We don't have any altitude restrictions on departure, so we can set this to 370 right out the gate. And I will look at getting the step climb set up. It would be on the VNAV cruise page. So there's a step 2, but see it's blanked out here. So I think what we'll just do is when we get to I think it was FTO or FOT. When we get to that point, I will just change our cruise altitude to 390 to take care of the step climb, and should be good to go with that. So, but it is what it is. I'm not too worried about it. We'll get up there one way or another. We said 174 is where we want to be on here. That's down, not up there, Captain Mac. There we go, 174. Flight directors can come on. It does both of them on this one. We can arm the LNAV and the VNAV. Those should be fine. The auto throttle stays armed on this one. There is no yaw damper switch. I looked for it like crazy last time. There's not a yaw damper switch on here, so I'm not too worried about that. There are a couple things we need to take care of up top here. First of all, our hydraulic stuff needs to be on, and you can't do anything with these anyway. We do need to bring the fuel pumps on at this point, so we'll go ahead and do that. And while we're here, so that I don't forget, let's go ahead and just start the APU. And you can see that down here. I'm looking for this view. If we go to systems, status. Now here's the thing. Sometimes it shows it spooling up, and sometimes it doesn't. I don't really know why. Let me just try this. Let's turn it off. I know I had it spooling up there. I think you have to have this page up for it to register that it's spooling up, which is a little strange to me. But let's just give it a second here while I set the altimeter, which is 3020. Pretty high up, or I think I said temperature, but I actually meant pressure. Let me just zoom that in a little bit so you guys can see. We're looking right here for 3020. Of course, there's always the shortcut key where you can press the B button if you have not taken that away. So I went to 3022. If I press B, it goes to 30. That looks like 20. Why would they put a line through the 0 on those tiny little digital numbers? That's just like not a good call in my opinion. But there we go, 3020. Now let's try starting up that APU again. Let's see if it registers it this time. So on, start, and there you see, now you see it starting up. Oh, and then it went back down to 0. So there's obviously some glitch there. So if somebody who is doing the 787 heavy division modifications on this, if you happen to see that, you can figure out why. Because I've had it where it spools all the way up, it shows you everything just fine, it's not a problem, and then I get that a lot of times. You see it started to spin up and then it appears to have stopped, but it is spinning up, I can tell you that. What else we got here? Auto brake setting needs to go to RTO. That's this guy down here. Left click it down to RTO. Engine throttles are at idle. Engine area is clear. Again, no yaw dampers. Fly-by-wire setting, check. I forget what I thought that was. Fly-by-wire setting should be this primary flight computers right here. You can't do anything with that anyway. I'm assuming that's what it means by fly-by-wire. If somebody knows better, which I'm sure somebody does, then let me know down in the comments section. Now, our APU should be up and running at this point. A simple way to check, because it does start up pretty quick. We'll turn the gens on. Now, if you look here, everything's running just fine, both sides. Now, if I jump back up here, if I turn the external power off, if anything shuts down, then the APU is not running. Obviously, the APU is running just fine, which is going to bring us up to our push and start phase. So I'll be back momentarily because I need to make sure track IR and everything's working properly. We'll push, we'll start, we'll roll. Alright, so we are ready for push and start here. We are going to continue using our toolbar pushback for the moment, but I did want to mention something. I recently saw a post, or maybe it was a YouTube video, I don't recall, but it said, oh, double your FPS performance or something like that in 30 seconds or something like that. There is going to be a link in the video description to the actual post for how to do this, but I saw an immediate improvement. I've increased everything on my graphics settings and I'm still averaging 35 to 40 frames per second. So it definitely works. So take a look at the link down in the description. I think I labeled it performance enhancement trick or something like that. Go to that link if you want to follow those directions. But I just want to say up front, if you're going to do this, make sure you do exactly what it says, because you'll be messing with the registry, and if you change the wrong things in the registry, it can mess up your entire computer. There's only one thing you're going to change. You're going to change one number, then you're going to restart your computer. It worked like a champ for me. Now, the reason I bring that up is twofold. One, so that you can hopefully see better frame rates throughout, especially in the cinematics. I haven't tried that yet, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it works out for cinematics. But also because there was a mention that toolbar pushback here has, for whatever reason, when you just have it installed, it has an impact on your frame rates. So whether or not that's accurate, I'm not entirely certain, but something to keep in mind. Okay, we do have a tug here. And so what I'm curious of, we're going to pre-plan our pushback. I'm curious if they'll tell me that that door is still open. I'll show you here in a second what I'm talking about. We need to swing way around here, actually. We need to be pointed back that way. So I'm going to start by going, I'm going to make it a multi-stage push here. And I'm going to do that so that it's got some room to work. And then we're going to, you'll see what I'm talking about here. So we're going to push back to here. We'll put it right about there. That should be fine. Hit enter. Now our pushback is planned. So presently the door is open, right? And I'll show you that here. Let me just jump down to view where you can see. Go to systems and go to doors. And you can see that that left front door is currently open. I'm going to leave that door open for the moment. And we're going to see if the pushback guys let me know. So I haven't even removed the jetway. I want to see what they say. So let's listen up.
Cockpit to ground.
This is ground. Stand by.
They always tell me to stand by. Okay, let's look at our engine startup checklist real quick. APU master knob is already in the on position. APU generators are on. We can double check those by jumping up here. I'll shrink this down so it's not in the way here. So the APU gens are on. EEC modes on the engine selectors, we can't do anything with those. They don't work right now. Engine starter knobs will go to the start position. That's these two up here. We're not ready for that yet. Engine fuel controls will go to run. That's the two down below the throttles.
Sir, the bypass pin is installed. All doors and hatches closed and all ground equipment is removed.
The parking brakes are set. You may lift.
Oh, they
Parking
closed
brake
the
set. Lifting
door.
aircraft.
Look at that. They closed the door. How cool is that? So the jetway's removed as well. So they removed the
cleared for
jetway and
start and
closed the
push.
door.
Okay.
I can
cleared for
appreciate
push
that.
start. Please release parking brake.
Okay, parking brake's coming off. I appreciate
brakes are
that. That's
released.
pretty great. So if you forget that, apparently they'll close the door for you.
It will start in the sequence.
All right, so we're clear to start the engines. Engine startup is very, very simple in this aircraft. We're going to start with number 2 here. Now, I don't recall, there's the EECs also, in case you were wondering. You can't do anything with those. I don't recall if you have to start 2 then 1 on this. I do know that you can start both engines at the same time. We're just going to start with number 2. Click it over to start there. And let me go to view here where you can see. You can see everything kicking in. Now, it's all in auto start, so you can just flip the fuel to run right away. You don't need to wait. Why are my throttles all the way forward? That was interesting. Okay, and then the engine start takes place on its own. So it's going to run the N2 up probably to about 25. We'll see when it kicks in here. I'll zoom it in so you can see it, because I can see it, but you probably can't. So there's 25, and immediately the engine or the exhaust gas temperature starts spooling up. So yep, there it is. I'm going to go ahead and it's the exact same process for engine number 1. So I'm going to finish the push back, finish the engine start on number 1, and then we'll be back here for taxi. Alright, pushback is complete. Both of the engines are started. We'll jump up top here. Let's go ahead and turn the APU off really quick. We'll take both of the gens off. Now the gens for the engines come on automatically. We don't need to do anything with those. All of those are running. So gens 2 and 1 are both off. Turn the APU off. Everything else is good on there. We do need to set our flaps. Our flaps need to go to 10. So that's 1, that's 5, and that's 10 right there. And again, we didn't actually get a trim setting. For whatever reason, we're not getting that on the takeoff page. Yeah, I don't know. Should that be the trim setting there? Degrees, takeoff, and then you got center of gravity trim. I honestly am not 100% certain on that. Yeah, I'm not going to mess with it right now. I'm not sure, because I feel like, because that says thrust, so I feel like that's a flex thrust, right? So I'm not going to mess with that. But I am going to bring the trim to about 9.5, 9.52. That's going to work for me. If it's a little bit much, I think we'll be fine. Keep in mind also it's fly-by-wire, so it's going to do a lot of auto trimming as we're departing, and that can actually be a little frustrating if you're trying to trim out the aircraft, because why won't that zoom out? Oh, because I'm going the wrong way. It can be a little bit frustrating because if you're trying to trim it out, but the trim's constantly changing because it's trying to auto trim. So the way that I found that's working out, and I don't know how realistic this is, but what I found that's working out is you really just kind of hold the nose where you want it on the aircraft and just let it auto trim to that position and gently release your pressure. Okay, flaps are set, parking brakes are set, lights can come on at this point. Let's jump to a better view so we can see everything here. So we've got the nav lights on already, logo lights, wing lights, and then we need not our strobe, that's the last one there, but we do need this one. That's our taxi lights, and unfortunately it's linked to the runway turnoff lights as well, and I really do need to remember to just unbind those. Why is that? There we go. That's where I want to be. All right, let's get the track IR on here. Could be a little jump. We'll see. It was a bit of a jump. Let's center it up. There we go. Looking good there. Get the parking brakes off. And let's start taxiing out. And we are pretty heavy, so it should take a little muster to get going. It didn't. It pretty much started rolling right away, which isn't too shabby. So again, we're going to take care of our taxi briefing. Keep in mind there is no departure briefing for this one because we don't have a planned departure route. So let's go ahead and taxi it out and take care of that taxi briefing. Real quick look at our taxi route here. Is pretty straightforward stuff. So you can see where we're pushed back to here, and we're just going to follow this. This is Echo. We're going to follow it all the way down here to Kilo. and then from Kilo we're going to hang a right. We're going to follow Kilo down here to Hotel, and that'll bring us to our hold short point for runway 7 left. Pretty straightforward. There are a couple operational notes on here. So for example, if we were taking runway 7 right, back taxiing from taxiway Juliet for departure is not authorized. So Juliet is right here. I'm not sure how they work that out. Why wouldn't you back taxi? That's kind of weird. Portions of taxiway Kilo between Hotel and Juliet are not visible from the tower, right? So that's portions in here are not visible from the tower, etc., etc. Okay, not too worried about it. ATIS on 135.5. I will play the ATIS before we taxi out, just so you guys can hear it. And then anchorage clearance, we don't need to worry about that now. Of course, we're not going to use ground and tower, but I usually just go over the frequencies real quick to give you guys an idea. I think that takes care of our taxi briefing. Alrighty, as you can see, we're holding short here of runway 7 left. A little throat clear there. At least I didn't cough in your face that time, right? Let me get the track IR off for just a second here. There we go. Okay, so holding short of runway 7 left. Let's just take a look at our before takeoff checklist. The takeoff flaps are set. Speed brakes are retracted. I do not recall if they're supposed to be armed on this one or not, but we're going to arm them. I don't think we'll get a takeoff config warning because I don't think that's really working in this right now anyway. Landing lights are going to come on. Now, of course, you would want to turn these on as you're coming out on the runway, but this is Flight Sim World, and we're doing things just a wee bit different here. Not a big deal. Strobe lights are in the on position. Parking brakes will come off, then we'll pull out on the runway, and we'll go right into our takeoff. So let me get this view back where it belongs. Track IR coming on here. A little jump maybe. There it is. And coughing in your face now. Always a good time, right? Let's get some thrust in there. We can see on the nav display here, there's doesn't appear to be any traffic on final. It says anchors that it can get very busy, but it doesn't stay busy. So there's nobody coming in right now. And again, I'm gonna start by pressing my toga button, excuse me, on my yoke, which is mapped properly. We're gonna see if that works, and if it doesn't, I'll try Control-Shift-G. So if you see a big jump in, me jumping around like this or something with my track IR, that's because I'm trying to hit Control-Shift-G up on my keyboard there. And we'll see if that works, and if not, then I'm just gonna put it to full thrust like I did last time. Now, this aircraft does not like to turn while it's on the ground. It tends to run out of thrust really quick, so we'll see how it goes here. A little bit further there, and now we'll try to turn it. And there we go. And like I said, it doesn't turn very well, but we'll get her lined up here. I just want to give myself as much runway as I can. I like to do that. It's a good habit. That's what I was taught when I did my private pilot training, is try not to use up as, try to use up as little runway as possible while you're getting lined up. I don't know what's going on. I think it's allergies or something messing with my throat today. Alright, it's come to a stop here. We are ready to go. All of our final checks have been completed. Our flaps are set. Our trim is set. We're looking for 155 for rotate. So let's go ahead and bring our throttles up to around 60%-ish. A little bit more than that. There we go. That's pretty close. Release brakes. Press the toga button. It did nothing. Control-Shift-G. It did nothing, so we'll just go to full thrust. Not sure why the toga function is not working. Auto throttles are armed. Okay, here we go. So 100 knots. Hands off the throttles. Rotate. Watch out, she's going to try to roll on you. Alright, positive rate of climb. Gear coming up. Following our flight director. We're going to go straight out first. Just get a little bit of altitude here. Why are my engines rolling back? That was interesting. Okay, let's put it on autopilot. Did you know? Did you hear that? It must have been like it went into auto throttle, and it did a thrust reduction on its own. Did you see that? Did you hear the engines roll back? That was crazy. That could be a little nerve-wracking on departure in a heavy aircraft. For a second there, I thought maybe I lost both engines. I was like, oh, this is going to be really, really bad. Look at the ground fog. There's like a thick layer of it there. I know somebody's going to say, no, that's smog. I don't think so. Probably not in Anchorage, to be honest with you. Let's zoom that out just a little bit more. We can go to flaps 5 now. It is climbing rather slow at the moment. Well, not really. I mean, it's climbing at 3,000 feet per minute. Just shy of. So, either way, we're just about above our minimum maneuvering speed for flaps 1. There we go. So let's go to flaps 1 now. Okay, this is one of those things that's a little weird to me. So we're in flaps 1 here, but it's still showing flaps 5 here. You see that? Why is that? Is it because it wants us to stay at flaps 5? Like the indicator didn't move, but we're at flaps 1 and our speed changed here. So that's interesting. Not really sure why it does that. Either way, it doesn't matter. Beautiful departure here. So I'll tell you what, let's take care of our after takeoff checklist and let's get some of that climb music taken care of so that we can see what's going on out here, because it's absolutely gorgeous. So after takeoff checklist, auto throttle is set. Taxi and landing lights will come off once we get above 10,000 feet. Flap lever is as required. We're going to stay at flaps 1 for the moment. Autopilot is on and the route manager is active. That takes care of our after takeoff checklist, and that means, ladies and gentlemen, you guessed it. It is time once again for some obligatory elevator music. Alrighty, let's take a look at our arrival briefing here now. We're going to do the approach briefing once we have access to the ATIS, which is going to be 133.8 Our airport elevation is at 128 feet, and it's going to be the Derby 1 RNAV arrival. Now, for us, we're going to come in out here at Tilt, down to Zipper, then to Whirl, Teacups, Rookie, I guess, Bob, Derby. Right now, as of right now, we're flying this all the way around to SLI. I did not include Trendo in there. But the reason that I'm okay with flying this all the way around is because it doesn't really matter which direction we're landing. We're still far enough out over here that we can either fly a downwind to pick up our approach, or if we're going to be landing to the west, then obviously we'll have to descend from here. But this is still pretty far out, so the arrival itself is not particularly confusing or difficult. We'll be out over the ocean here. We don't have to worry about the terrain. There is some pretty high terrain over here. We don't have to really worry about that. The big thing is going to be the altitude restrictions for us. So at or above 260 teacups, at or above 210 rookie, at Bob at 280 knots between flight level 210 and 190. Derby's still at at 280. That's between 19,000 and 16,000, and then at or below 14,000 at Foon. At or below 12,000 at Show, but then it's at or above 9,000 at Zap, at or below 8,000 at Buffy, which I'm here to tell you, if you're at 9,000 here and you got to be below 8,000 here, you got 3.9 nautical miles to do it. That's going to be a pretty rapid descent, so I'm not sure who thought that was a good plan, but there you have it. And then at 7,000 feet, when you get here to the Seal Beach VOR. By the time we get probably around Rookie, we should, either Rookie or Bob, we should have access to the ATIS by the time we get there. And that'll give us an idea of what our approach is going to be. So that's your arrival briefing. Pretty straightforward. We should be on the descent here pretty soon. Alright, we're flirting with 100 nautical miles from top of descent here. Coming out just a little early so I can get things set up, get ready for the descent. We did do a step climb up to flight level 390, so that's where we're at presently. And as mentioned in the arrival briefing, we don't have an accurate ATIS at the moment, so our approach is going to be selected. Brain doesn't want to work. Our approach is going to be selected once we have access to the ATIS, and what I will probably do is come back on here and set that up with you, and we should be good to go from there. Okay, so with all of that being said, we're getting ready for our top of descent here, even though it is a little early. The anti-ice is going to stay as required. There's nothing to do with the nav radios yet, because again, we don't know what runway we're going into. Same thing with the course setting. Fuel quantity is looking good right now. If we look at our progress page down here, you'll see that we're looking at having about 28,000 pounds left, so it looks like I probably didn't need that extra 10,000 pounds of fuel. But there's that whole not really trusting it thing going on, you know what I mean? But it is what it is, and we're good with that. So auto brake setting at the moment is just nothing. We're not going to do anything with it. I don't even know that we're going to need to use auto brake. If memory serves, we've got some pretty long runways. Yeah, just looking at the chart here, unless we land on 6 left, which is the shortest runway, we're looking at 11,000 feet, 12,900 feet, and 10,800 feet are the other 3 runways. And I'm guessing most likely we're going to be looking at either 7 right or 7 left, depending, either that or 25 left, 25 right. It's going to depend on the wind, obviously. But the time of day that we're looking at, I believe the wind should be coming in off the shore, not from the ocean, but to the ocean, which would put us 7 left, 7 right. But we're going to find out when we get closer. So I don't think we're going to really need to worry about auto brakes. I'll just do manual braking. And then, of course, the approach briefing hasn't been taken care of yet either. Now, if you do recall from our arrival briefing, we do have some altitude restrictions. So let's just take a look down here real quick, make sure those are all set up, which I know they are, but I just want to show them to you. So still 390 at tilt, which we'll be crossing here in about 22 nautical miles. And then our first altitude restriction is at Teacups, which is flight level 260 at or above. Rookie is 210 at or above. And then next page here, there's our bob between, so that's why it says flight level 190A, so that's at or above, and flight level 210B, which means at or below. Same thing here at Derby, just different altitudes. Then you get the 14,000 at or below, 12,000 at or below, 9,000 at or above, and then you get the crazy one where you suddenly have to be below 8,000. So it's going to be pretty tight going in there. And then you can see I only ran it up to SLI. By the time we get there, we're going to know what approach we're on, and we're going to have that programmed in here. Now we can go to our approach page if we want. We can say, okay, we're going to land flaps 30, 144 knots. We are going to burn off a little bit more fuel, so I'm just going to hold off on that for the moment. And it'll be the same for setting up our radios and stuff like that. We don't do that in here, by the way. I just wanted to go back to the progress page. So we're pretty much good to go. Now, I will say this, again, it's Flight Sim World, right? And so we're going to take advantage of the fact that the aircraft should manage the altitudes on its own. And so we're going to bring this down to 8,000 feet. And that's just going to be for our initial descent. And obviously, I'll be keeping an eye on it, making sure everything's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Make sure we're not going below the altitudes that we're supposed to be at, or above altitudes that we're supposed to be at. I think all of that makes sense. And so then our descent checklist, we're not going to use the heads-up display, seatbelt sign. Seatbelts should still be on, right? Is it up here on this one? Or not? I had them off. There we go. Seatbelts are on. I did notice that I forgot to do the ATIS before we departed. I told you guys I was going to, and then I forgot to. So my bad on that. Did I not turn off? I did. Like, just suddenly I was like, did I not turn off landing lights? I did turn off landing lights. Okay, we're good. What else we got here? Anti-ice controls are going to remain on auto. Nav displays are good. TCAS instruments are good. METAR and ATIS, we haven't pulled those yet. Engine instruments are good. Flight displays are good. Hydraulic systems are good. All of this too, a lot of this you can check by going to systems here, and then if you jump to this view here, which is a good one, then you can go through, you can check your electrical, your hydraulic, which isn't operational right now, fuel, air conditioning, doors, we don't need to check, gears, flight controls, all of that. I didn't do a flight controls check before we left either. I need to write that on the checklist. Usually I have that written on here. Should be really the before taxi, right? So let me write that in here. I'm going to write it right now or I'll forget. So flight controls, and that way hopefully I'll remember to do it next time. But that's where you can check all of that. So air conditioning, pneumatic systems, fuel systems, window heating, all of that stuff looks good. So I'm not worried about any of that. We'll put that back on our nav display there. And that prepares us for our descent. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on here. When we pick up the ATIS, I'll choose the approach that we're going to fly, and then I'll come back on here. We'll brief the approach and we'll set up for the approach. Alright, as you can see, we're coming up on teacups here. Let's take care of, we've got the ATIS now, so let's listen to the ATIS and then we'll take care of the approach briefing and get everything set up real quick.
Los Angeles Airport information, Golf 1700 Zulu. Wind 228 at 10. Visibility 8. Sky condition clear. Temperature 21. Dew point 10. Altimeter 29.88. ILS runway 24 right, ILS runway 24 left, ILS runway 25 right, and ILS runway 25 left in use. Landing and departing runway 24 right, runway 24 left, runway 25 right, and runway 25 left. DFR aircraft see direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact you have golf.
Okay, so that's kind of funny to me. So it was golf when I listened to it about 2 minutes ago, and it changed. For me, it was 230 at 10. Now it's 228 at 8. But it's still golf, so that's kind of funny. But anyway, let's take care of our approach briefing here real quick. We are going to fly the ILS, or localizer, runway 25 right approach. Let me zoom this in a little so you can see here. Oh, excuse me, the ATIS, which we just listened to, is 33.8. SoCal approach for us would be 124.9, I think. Los Angeles Tower, we'd be on the South Complex, 20.95. Ground, South Complex, 21.75. We're not a helicopter. Localizer frequency is 111.10. Final approach course 251 degrees. Glide slope intercept at Fogla, 1900 feet. ILS decision altitude or decision height for us is going to be 200 feet on the radio altimeter. Airport elevation 121 feet. Touchdown zone elevation is 104 feet. For the missed approach, we're going to climb to 2,000 feet on heading 251 until crossing the SMO VOR 160 degree radial, then a left turn on heading 236 and SMO VOR 195 degree radial outbound. And we're going to take that out to Caitlin intersection, which is 15.7 nautical miles out, and then hold transition level 18,000 feet. So we can see what it looks like here. So remember, SLI is the last waypoint we have inside our FMC right now, other than LAX. So we're going to go straight to Trundo, then Shell, then it's going to be Fogla, then it's Grimy, and then on in from there, so long as we don't have to perform a missed approach. Again, the missed approach procedure, you can see the visual representation of it here. So what we're going to do is actually we're going to put a couple of those crossing points into our FMC. We'll see if it works in this aircraft. Definitely works in the PMDG 737, but of course that's payware, and so it's going to be a little while before this one catches up. Anyway, there we go. Put that over there. Check a couple things there, make sure everything's working okay. So let's dive down in here and let's set up our approach. Go to our departure and arrival. Okay. All of a sudden we're picking up somebody else's traffic here. Let's just go 122.0, bam, and then switch that over there. That way we don't have to listen to them. Okay. Arrival. So we're already on the Derby 1 arrival there. It's going to be the ILS 25 right approach. So we just need to find that in here. ILS 25 right. And we want to transition at Trundo. So that should be on the next page. There it is. Trundo right there. And execute. Now the trick is, of course, you got to go to your legs page. You got to check everything out here. So we're going to come from SLI to Trundo. There it is. Direct connect there. Of course, the fun part here is you can jump back up here for a sec. No, we don't need to do that in this one. Click this on plan mode right there. Actually, it would help if we zoom that down a little bit. There's 10 nautical miles out, and then we step through. So right now we're at Buffy on here, and so we'll step through. There's SLI, right? And then Trundo comes next. So there we go, Trundo, and then our turn at whoa, you see, that's why we do this. There's no reason for it to go to that waypoint. I don't even know what that is. And then it goes back to teacups. You see that? And then comes back down here. Ooh, look at that. You see what it does here? And then back down to Shell, Trundo, and then so let's do this. Copy Trundo here. Go back one page. There's Trundo there. We're going to put it right here. Bam. See how it's checkered now? There we go. And that got rid of all that craziness. Alright, so let's go previous page. Where are we at here? Okay, it's being a butthead about it. We'll just step through. Okay, so there's Bob. We're not there yet. Then Derby, then Foon, then Show, then Zap, then Buffy. SLI, that's the VOR, then Trundo, then Shell, then Fogla. Now here's where we want to check our altitudes, right? So at SLI, we need to be at we need to be at 7,000. Trundo's 5,000. Shell should be 3,700. So it shows at or above on here, but that should be a hard 3,700. So let's go slash 3,700 here at Shell. Bam. And then Fogla, again a hard 1900, that looks good there. And then step forward, and then it takes us to runway 25. And then the rest of this is the missed approach procedures, right? Okay, so we should be able to go in here and go to, can you do it in this one? Yeah, nav radio. Alright, so the left VOR, I'm just taking a look at our, oh, this headset's creaking like crazy. It's driving me nuts. I apologize if you can hear that clicking on the video there. Okay, looking at our misapproach procedures, it's the SMO VOR, which is 110.8. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go in here. We're going to go 110.8. This is for the VOR here. And the course we're looking for on that is, let's see, until crossing the 160 degree radial. So we're going to go 160. And let's see, this in the 737, so it's not doing it here. In the 737 it puts the lines here. But I think that's for a fix, and I can't do a fix on this one. Alright, so we'll cross the 160 degree radial, and then when we cross it, we start a left turn to the 236 degree, or to 236 degrees, and the 195 degree radial outbound. So I'm going to put that one on VOR 2. So it's the same VOR, 110.8, 110.8. But this is going to be, we're going to track the outbound radial of 195. So 195. And that should at least, you know, give us something to, you know, give us a visual representation if we turn this to our VOR setting up here. So, can you even do that on here? There's supposed to be a way. Maybe it does it automatically. I don't know. We'll see how it tracks the VORs once we get in here. Should be interesting. Nonetheless, there we have that. The ILS is already tuned in there. ILS 25 right 111.10. It doesn't let me put a course in here, and there's not. Is there a course knob on this one? There's just the heading knob. So I'm not sure how you set up the course on this one. You should be able to put it right in there, but obviously I can't do that. So that's interesting, but it is what it is. I'm not too worried about it. Alright, so that sets that up. We've checked our legs already, so now we can go to our approach page here. It is still going to be 144, so we'll do flaps 30, 144. That's going to be our VREF. Now let's take a look at where we're at here. So we're coming up on Bob right now. So from Bob, it's going to be, let me just pull up my arrival chart again over here. So to Derby, Foon, Show, Zap, Buffy, then SLI, and then from SLI on in from there. So we're pretty much set up. The one thing I will say though, so at Bob we're supposed to be between 21 and 19, right? Which we're at 19.9 right now. But it is on VNAV speed, which is, to me, is usually it's on VNAV speed when it's not tracking the path properly. And so that would technically mean we're above the descent path. But unfortunately, we don't have a descent path indicator on here, which I believe is supposed to be this guy here, the vertical, I don't know if that's vertical slope indicator or I don't know what that's supposed to be, but that should give us that vertical indication. We haven't turned the VORs on, so by doing that, if you look here, if I put that gives us our pointers there. I'm not familiar with how they work in this one because I'm used to the older Boeings where this guy here, you just scroll it over one more and it puts it on that approach mode, which changes your layout on here, but we don't really have that option on here, do we? Position, data, waypoint, that's just all information we can put on here. So unfortunately, no dice on that, but that's alright. It's not the end of the world. Again, we're not going to use auto brakes on this one, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just break away for a few minutes here because we got a little ways to go. I'll come back on when we're crossing the SLI VOR. Alright, we'll be coming up on SLI here in 2 shakes of a pickle. I don't know why I forgot, but to put the course in, you put it in back here, right? So you've got your VHF, HF, satellite, all that good stuff. Well, your nav radio is back here as well. So even though it tuned the nav, the localizer frequency automatically for us, you go back here and you put the course in by just clicking on the nav radio. I am monitoring tower right now. There was a bunch of aircraft in the area, but nothing's showing up on the radio, so I don't know if that's because the real world frequency isn't actually synced up with the in-sim frequencies or something like that, but I'm not picking up any chatter obviously. So it is what it is. It's not a big deal. But here we are coming up on SLI pretty soon, so in fact just 3 miles. So let's take a look at our approach checklist here. The landing lights are on. The altimeter is set to 2988. Navigation radios are tuned. The approach localizer is not presently active, but we're still a little far out for that. Engine instruments, they're looking good. And then everything else here, it shows maximum speed and then your flap settings and all of that, gear, when you're supposed to put gear down, all that stuff. We're not going to read all that off right now, obviously. Auto brake setting, though, is as required. In speed brakes, it says check retracted and then arm. Notice that we're on VNAV speed again. This is happening a lot. I have to keep putting the speed brakes out there and get her to descend a little bit so that it stays on VNAV path. So just something to keep in mind. We can throw that first flap setting out there, it looks like. So I'm going to do that now. Now it's doing the same thing to me now that it did earlier. I'll show you here in just a second. I want to monitor the speed. I already clicked the flap setting in. And so you can see that it's gone to flaps 1. Now when I click it again, it's going to go to flaps 5. But I want it at flaps 1. See, so I had to go back up. So there's a little glitch there where sometimes it doesn't seem to register when I change the flap setting. So it did that on departure, and I didn't notice. I was doing the cinematics for the elevator music, and I didn't notice until we were well above 10,000 feet. And so even on here, if you look on here, it's showing the flaps set at 5 on the display here, but on here obviously it's not. So let me just try. So I had to go up and then back down to 1 to get it to sit at 1. I'm not really sure why it keeps doing that. That's kind of weird. But I did set us for a speed restriction at Shell, I believe, 200 knots. Let's just double check. So when we get to, no, it deleted my speed restriction. So that was nice of you. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. So 144 is our approach speed. So what we're going to do is we're just going to manually take control of the speed here because we are just going way too stinking fast. So it's on VNAV speed. That's why you see the nose coming up while it does that. And we're going to go ahead and try and go to flaps. See, the indicator went away again too. Like it's really on its own program here, but that should be flaps 5. I want to bring it all the way down to 200 knots. Actually, we'll go 205 because that's the minimum flap maneuvering speed for minimum maneuvering speed for flaps 5. Looks like it's at about 203 knots right now. So and that's based on our weight as well. So 144 is what we're ultimately going to be looking for. You can see that the localizer and the glide slope are both alive right now. We are on VNAV path at the moment, so that's good. Starting our turn at Shell. And so I'm going to arm the localizer. It grabs it. It should have grabbed it immediately. No, it did not. Now it grabbed it and then arm the approach. And it grabbed the glide slope immediately too. So we're already on the glide slope. Let's go ahead and bring that speed down quite a bit more. Next setting of flaps coming in, flaps 10. That'll give us a little bit more maneuverability. And then let's go, because it goes 15, 17, 18, and then 20. Don't do that. I hate when it zooms out. So we'll bring the speed down a little more. Let's go to flaps. That's 18. Flaps 20. Gear coming down. And now I can get down to our flaps 20 minimum maneuvering speed. We're close to it. 175 is good. So 144 is our landing speed. We want to be at about 149. So I'm not going to throw it all out there quite yet. We got a little ways to go, and I don't want to get too slow, and then we're going to be flying, you know, super slow for like the next 10 minutes. Nobody wants to do that. Because we have the glide slope locked in now, we can take a look again at our missed approach procedure. It is a climb to 2,000 feet, and that's what we're going to hold at, is 2,000 feet. So we'll just put that at 2,000, and that way if we have to perform a missed approach, we're good to go on that. Again, we're not using the auto brakes. I do still have some spoilers out. That was no good. We don't need that. Let's go ahead and arm those now. My bad. Okay, spoilers are armed. Here's the 2500 call out, and we're looking pretty good. So from Fogla was supposed to be our glide slope intercept, but we obviously intercepted further out, and that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. So from Fogla on in is not very far though. It's 5.5 miles, 5.5 miles. So as we're getting ready to cross Fogla here, we'll go ahead and bring that speed down a little bit further. Next setting of flaps coming in first. And it does that zoom out on me again. The cursor goes away a little too quick for my liking. Let's bring this down to 150. No, let's just bring it down to 149. That's where we got to be anyway. And let's go flaps 30.
Spirit Wings 1359er Heavy, Los Angeles Tower. Altimeter 29.90, wind 238.
So I'm going to leave that on in the background, but obviously we're not talking to the tower, so it is what it is. Let me get the track IR on here, a little jump, and let me center that up, or not. This thing's on its own program. Okay, we got the runway in sight here. Let's turn the auto throttles off. Got to roll my throttles way back. Trying to get down to 149, just watching the speed there. I'm just going to let the autopilot do its thing for a minute as that speed comes down. I'm just controlling the speed. It'd be nice if they had the continuous throttle indicator on here. You guys know what I'm talking about, where it shows you right here on your ATIS what your throttles are at. But it doesn't, so there we have it. And the wind's just a little bit gusty, so it's going to make our speed go up and down just a little bit, but not too bad. We're a little high right now, so the autopilot's trying to get it back down. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut the autopilot off here, and it's my airplane. And we could have cut it off a little sooner, but I chose not to. Just a skosh high still. Get back down on that glide slope there. Let's listen for our call-outs now.
Clear to land runway 25 left Spirit wings, 1359er heavy.
20.
Come on, settle.
10.
There we go, minus 156, smooth as butter. And again, we're just using reverse right now. Start bringing in a little bit of manual braking here. There's 80 knots, we can get rid of reverse thrust. And nice easy braking. Take this next exit right here. Now, I don't know about you guys, but it's definitely a little choppy coming into LA. So I could probably turn maybe my traffic settings down a little bit or something like that. I think that would probably be a good thing. But other than that, I mean, it's not terrible, but it's definitely a little choppy here. Alrighty, and I think I got us a parking space right over there, so I'm going to zip on over, and then we'll come back on and we'll take care of shutting down the aircraft. So we definitely got a little bit of choppiness coming in here. There's no doubt about that. It wasn't horrible, but it was a little choppy. There is a lot of traffic in the air. I'm sure that had something to do with it. I'll probably play with the settings, tweak things a little bit more, try and get it just right, but still overall it was relatively good. So let's take a look at our brain fade there. Our engine shutdown checklist. Parking brakes are set. Engine generators, we can't turn those on or off. External power is on right now. Fuel control switches can go to cutoff. Ooh, that went a little quick, didn't it? So that's that frame rate being down a little. For some reason, it's not showing my frame rates down here in the corner. It keeps doing that to me. That's like an ongoing thing. So anyway, taxi lights off. I didn't turn those off as we pulled into the ramp. Wrong one. Nav lights can stay on for the moment. Strobe lights can come off. Logo lights can go off. Wing lights, nav lights. Oh yeah, you gotta hit the switch for that one. There we go. Wing lights and beacon lights can stay on for just another moment here. Actually, no, they can go off as well. So there's beacon, there's wing lights. All of those can come off, right? Because we're just on ground power, or did he say it was nav lights? There we go. I think nav lights are the ones he said supposed to stay on, right? I don't know, I keep forgetting. Taxi lights are off, beacon lights are off, fuel pump switches need to go off. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those were already off because we ran out of fuel in center tanks. Seatbelt sign can go off as well. I suppose passengers want to get off now, so we'll let them do that. And we didn't use the heads-up display, and that means that's going to wrap it up for this one, ladies and gentlemen. I do hope that you enjoyed the flight. Very special happy birthday to my good friend Mark Webster. I hope you enjoyed this flight as well, my good sir. Let me know where you want to go from here. Did you notice? I just now noticed this. There's a C-17 parked at the gate back here. I have a C-17 freeware that I downloaded. All the AI traffic right now is aircraft that I've installed in my sim. So I have a C-17 I was playing around with, and so it's sitting over there at a gate. I think that's fantastic. Either way, let me know where you guys want to go next. I'm going to try, before this video even posts, I'm going to try and put something in the community section of the channel page there, get some feedback from you guys. Let me know where you want to fly next, and I think our flight out of here is probably going to be in the 737. We've had a couple flights now in this Boeing 787, the heavy division mod, which is absolutely fantastic. I love it. And so we'll definitely be doing some more in this, but I think we need to switch it up a little bit. I imagine you guys are thinking the same thing as well. If you would take the opportunity, if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and smash that thumbs up button down there. And if you think I earned it, go ahead and smash the subscribe button. My son likes it when I say smash that subscribe button. For some reason, he gets a real kick out of that. So smash that subscribe button. If you think that I earned your subscription, you can click on the little bell to get notifications whenever I upload videos. You guys know the drill. The thumbs up do help me in two ways, just so that you know. One, it lets me know that you enjoy the content and that you like the way I'm doing things, and two, it does help with the algorithm. So if you want more people to get an opportunity to see my channel, if you do enjoy it and you want others to enjoy it as well, when videos get more thumbs up, I guess the way YouTube's algorithm works is the more popular the video is within the category, the more likely it is to show up in searches. So hit the thumbs up, hit it several times, do whatever you do. You guys know how it works. I really appreciate everything. I hope you guys had a wonderful flight. I know that I absolutely enjoyed this one, and I'm looking forward to the next one as well. That's it. That's all, and no more, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, as always, keep the blue side up, unless otherwise instructed by ATC. God bless you all, and have an absolutely fantastic day.